Okay, we're back here in Rabbi Tatz's Sefer on BECHIRA, and we are describing the words of the Shelah HaKadosh, who understands that when we say that Hashem is one, that means his whole reality, everything about him is one. And therefore, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to know really everything that's going to take place in this world, even before it's going to exist, before it takes place. Nevertheless, the Shelah explains that it's possible for Hashem to know all of the choices of what a person could make, meaning all the different outcomes that could exist in this world. If I choose this, you'll end up over here. If I choose this, I'll end up over there. All of that is foretold, but the action that the person themselves is actually going to make and the decision they will choose, that's still up to the person themselves, because Hashem's not going to interfere with our free will. So he writes the following, and he says...
It's Rabbi Horowitz?
Yes, it is. Yes, thank you. So the Shelah says that if you look at the Ramban in the Chumash, the Ramban says that divine knowledge exists in the form of potential, like the Shelah is saying, that Hashem knows everything in potential before the events, and in the form of actual when they occur. So before a person made a decision, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees him standing at the crossroads, and he knows if the guy goes this way, he's going to end up home free. If he goes this way, he's going to end up in the thorns and the thistles, and there's going to be bandits that come and they'll take him. And if he goes straight ahead like this, he's going to end up getting into a roadblock, and he won't be able to continue on his journey. Hashem knows each way that a person could go, what's going to be. But the choice, that reality becomes actual only when you make that final decision. So he says there are things that are known in advance, and sometimes even shown prophetically, as they ought to be, meaning Hashem will show you the way that something should be. And there's prophecies that we will see to that. However, free will can overcome that form of the future and deflect things from that path to another. So even though that there's a nevuah, there's a prophecy, even though that it's foreseen the way that things should be, but if I make a decision right now, and let's say I make the wrong decision, so I could deflect the direction that things are supposed to go, and I could change the course of this particular path that I'm on right now. All paths are known at the level of divine will, which is where the foreknowledge resides. Hashem, again, he's the camera overhead. He's watching everything. He sees where everything goes. He knows where the pathway leads to. But what it means, he doesn't know, but it means that Hashem still allows for us to be the one that is going to decide which path we are going to take.
Essentially, Hashem knows the end in the beginning. You make the BECHIRA of which path is the beginning.
Correct. That's correct. Now, so he says, I'll bring you a proof to how this works. Okay, there's a story in the Chumash of a young boy by the name of Yishmael. Yishmael is the son of Avram, of Abraham, right? Ishmael. He's the son of Abraham and the maidservant Hagar. He's not a very good boy. He's actually pretty much, as he's called, Pera Adam, which means he's a wild man. And Sarah says to Avram, get this kid out of here, get Hagar, his mother, out of here. I don't want them around anymore. We have a son whose name is Yitzchak, and Yitzchak needs to be safe and in a good environment. We can't have this kid around here anymore. Get rid of him. So Avram Avinu listens to his wife Sarah, and he sends her away. He sends Hagar and Yishmael gets very sick in the desert. They run out of water. His fever is spiking. He's dehydrated. He's dying. It's the end of the world. And then he cries out. The little boy cries out in pain and suffering. And Hashem says, and Hagar's crying, and he says, Hagar, don't worry. Open your eyes and look what's in front of you. She opens her eyes and she sees a whole wellspring of water sitting right in front of her. Take the flask, fill it up, give the water now to the child who's on his last breath of life from the extraordinary heat, and he ends up living. At this moment, Chazal tell us that the angels come before Hashem, and they say, Hashem, how could you do this? The kid's about to die. If the kid's about to die, it's going to be the best thing for the Jewish people. Because have you watched the news recently, Hashem, about these people called Hamas? They're the relatives they are the offspring of Yishmael. Have you heard about these people, Hezbollah? They're the offspring of Yishmael. They're going to be ruthless killers. They're going to be murderers, bus bombers. They're going to make the lives of the Jewish people miserable for centuries and decades, for all time. If the kid dies right now, Hashem, then we have nothing to worry about. No October 7th, no bus bombings, no wars with Palestinians, no have to entertain the world pressures of two states, God forbid, nothing. They're no longer here, they don't exist. So the angel said to Hashem, how could you do such a thing? Let the kid die. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to them, what, you think that I don't know what's going to happen in the future? I know very well what's going to happen in the future. But I have one question for you. This little kid right now, this para Adam, this wild kid, he's a tzaddik or a rasha right now? He's righteous or he's wicked? So they said, well, he's a kid. He's dying of a fever. He's on his last breaths of life over here. He's crying out to Hashem. So they said, well, right now, tzaddik. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when I judge a person, I only judge a person b'asher husham, where they are holding right now. I don't take into the future. I don't take that into the account. I don't think to myself, one day he's going to go wild and there's going to be a guy whose name is Muhammad and he's going to become the leader of the Arabs, and he's going to say all these crazy things in his Quran that want to tell them go and kill the Jew. I don't think about that. I think about where the person is right now in front of me, and I judge him accordingly.
That's not to say that all's well that ends well.
Correct. That is correct.
So angels have the power to see in the future?
Oh, so the Shelah asks the following questions. How could the angels hope to change the future that they already saw? Right? The angel is saying, Hashem, you know what's going to happen with this person. He'll survive, he'll have a nation under him, and that nation is going to be the most ruthless nation of the Jewish people. You know that, Hashem, so why are you letting him live? So if they foresaw an event that will become part of the future of the history, then it must transpire. Meaning, if they saw October 7th, then there's an October 7th. If they saw bus bombings, then they saw Sbarro's pizza shop, then they saw it. If they saw Arabs uprising against the Jewish people in every continent that we've ever been to before, they already saw it. So how can they say to Hashem, let the guy die? Because we don't want to see what's going to happen in the future. Meaning, if he'll die, then we won't have to get over there. So after all, they're seeing it. So how can one accurately see a future event and then apply to have it prevented? Oh, how can you see what's going to happen and say, you know what, let's not have it happen? But you saw already what's going to be in the future. HaKadosh Baruch Hu already knows what's going to take place in the future. So how can you now say, let us supervent what's supposed to take place in the future and get rid of it? So what could such a foresight possibly mean? What meaning would there be to any prophecy if the future events that the prophecy sees could be prevented? So Hashem comes to a prophet. He gives him a prophecy. And he now knows in 3 weeks' time, this is what's going to happen. But according to this, the way the angels were arguing, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have actually acquiesced, they would have changed where the future is going. So how does any prophecy work? Says the Gemara, the prophecy would then turn out to have been false. So we're forced to say, and this is how he explains. The Shelah concludes that prophecy indeed sees the future. When a prophet comes along and he's given a prophetic vision by Hashem, he sees the future. The angels over here, they saw Yishmael dying, and they also saw the future that he's going to be such a wicked man who's going to destroy the Jewish people. They saw that as well. So what does a person see? That it's true that prophecy sees into the future, but only as it might be, not necessarily as it will turn out in fact. I could see what, if I would make such a decision, what might end up being, but it's not written in stone at that time that for sure that's what's going to happen, because maybe a person will use their BECHIRA in a different way, and they'll shift the tide of where the world is going. Only as one option among a set of options, all of which remain possible until future becomes present and the process is closed. Meaning, since that there are options, and there are escape routes, and there are roads that will lead this way, until a person will actually make the decision of which way they're going to go, so then the future opportunities and possibilities always exist. So that's what the Shelah is being mechadish. That's what he's introducing over here. Which,
what did the angels see? It seems that whatever the hero would be made, it was all going to end in great difficulty.
Say again, that what?
It was all going to be bad. Whichever the hero was made in the future, they saw a bad future.
Oh, yes. Meaning they saw that no matter what Yishmael is going to do, it's going to be bad. Okay, you bring up a good point. So let's see in a moment. He uses another example in the Torah to explain this. Another famous story in the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu has just risen to the scene, and he is now becoming the defender of the Jewish people. Right? So he's walking out into the fields, and he sees a Mitzri, an Egyptian, beating a Jew, and it looks like he's going to kill the Jew. So Moshe Rabbeinu walks over, and it says he looked chay v'chay, he looked this way and he looked that way, and he saw ve'ein ish, there's no man, and then he looks around to make sure no one sees, and he kills this Egyptian and he buries him in the sand. So Chazal tell us, what did Moshe Rabbeinu see when he saw ein ish, there's no man? What does that mean, there was no man? So he says, he looks this way and that way, it means he looked prophetically into the future, and he saw that there's no good descendant that's going to come from this Egyptian that's standing right here. And so therefore, since that there's no good, positive, beneficial descendant that will come from this Egyptian, he killed him on the spot. So the problem is obvious, says Rav Tatz. Of course, when he looks into the future and he sees that no good descendant will come from this Egyptian, so he's about to kill him. So if I kill the guy, of course there won't be a good descendant. So he's about, if there was ever a self-fulfilling prophecy, this is it. Meaning, why is it that there's no good descendant that's going to come out from this Egyptian? Because I'm ready to kill the guy. So if I kill the guy, certainly there won't be anybody good that comes out because no one's going to be born. This seems to be impossible.
But if somebody good was going to come out of this guy, what was going to be done?
Then he went, I guess, I don't know. So what's the meaning of seeing a future and using that vision to decide upon an action in the present that will affect the future and possibly change it from what it just was? Meaning, the future is saying nobody good. So, okay, so I should kill the guy then because no one's good going to come out of him. Or maybe it's my killing of the guy right now makes it that there will be nobody good that's going to come out. Meaning, again, the Rav Tatz there's like a paradox over here, and that is, I know the future, so therefore I'm acting right now based on the future. So then I don't really have free will. Or is it that it's Hashem knows the future, prophets know the future, the malachim, the angels knew the future, but that's only one of the options that exist in the future, what they were able to see, based on my decisions over here, my BECHIRA, that will define where it's going to head. So he says the answer is like this. The future seen now is only one version of what might be, but it's not the only and the inevitable one. Put another way, Moshe sees in the present within this Egyptian, this guy that's beating the Jew, no incipient potential for any good descendant. He sees, he's looking at this person, he looked this way, he looked that way, to see ein ish, there's no good descendant, means in this Egyptian right now, he sees clearly that there is no good seed that's ever going to come from him. So he's seeing the root of the future now, and that does not contradict acting on the seed of what will become a future reality. So even though in the future there's a reality that says that there will be nobody good that's going to come from him, Moshe Rabbeinu, though, is seeing his own, in right now, in his world of free will, Since I see that there's no one good that will ever come out of this person because I see no good in him, therefore I can come back and kill him. That's my choice that I'm making. And that does not contradict acting on the seed of what will become a future reality. So the same thing is by the angels and Yishmael. The angels see the root of a particular cruelty in Yishmael. Now, they look at Yishmael and they see he's Per Adam, he's a wild man. He's going to go do terrible things. He's going to kill the Jewish people. He's going to get long knives, Khalil. He's going to stab, God forbid, do all the terrible things. So they were able to see the cruelty that existed in Yishmael now, the seed potential of descendants who will be enemies of the Jew. They saw from Yishmael is going to come the enemy of the Jews in all generations. But that course to the future is one among many. Who says it's going to work itself out that Yishmael will go on to become the worst of the enemies? That seed may or not take root, and the angels are quite free now to apply to have it stopped. Meaning, yes, we see, says the angels, that in the future they're going to be wicked and they're going to be terrible and everything like that. If that's the case, you can't stop it. It's already going to happen. The answer is, no. That's only one option. So if you want to now stop the one option from taking place, which means let's come along, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we should beg of you to let Yishmael die so we don't get to that point. Well, we have free will. We'll have to do such a thing. So, therefore, says Rabbi Tatz, explaining the words of the Shelah, that's what he means. He means that Hashem, he sees in the future, right now, all of the pathways and the choice of decisions where they're going to lead to. But you yourself, you don't know the three different paths that are going to be taken based upon your decision, and therefore your decision is your decision and your decision only. Okay, we'll continue next time.
But creating a miracle that it brings the water for them, he created a miracle that allowed us.
Correct.
So he went out of his way.
Hashem went out of his way.
Right, to create a miracle to let this future happen.
Yeah, because he said, I can only judge a person based on who he is right now.
Yeah, but he doesn't create a miracle for every person who's in trouble and needs help.
Correct.
Dying of thirst or hunger. Or
Correct.
People perish all the time. So why was this a different story than thousands or millions of other people who perished because there was no miracle in front of them?
Right. Well, I guess
He intervened.
yes.
No free will here. He intervened.
He intervened because of the cries of the child. The piercing, pure cries of the child, Yishmael, warranted that his mother's eyes would be open and she would see the water that was sitting in front of her.
But when people cry out, they don't get a miracle.
Correct. Not always, that's correct.
Very rarely.
Okay.
It's a confusing lesson. How do you get a moral distinction between one or another? I see thousands of people dying, asking for God's forgiveness or whatever, and then here's a guy who gets it. Why did I not get it?
Right.
Or this other person not get it?
Again,
and he was a good guy to begin with.
Right. We do see, and we have spoken about this idea that there's an ultimate plan that Hashem has. There's an ultimate place that He wants to bring the world to, and certain things can only happen if HaKadosh Baruch Hu will suspend sometimes those.
But then He eliminates free will.
Again, we did mention before that there are certain times where Hashem suspends free will to get what He wants to happen, because He needs it to happen for the ultimate.
It's not always 100%.
Right, but over here, what we're saying is that even though that the angels knew that Yishmael is going to become such a wicked person, the truth of the matter is that the angels had a good complaint, and that is, let's try to save the Jewish people from these big Rishayim, these wicked people, and we could rescue them from all the pain. And Hashem says, you're making a valid point, but I'm not looking into the future. I'm looking about where the kid is holding right now. Right now, he's a poor, sick kid, is crying, so he's righteous in my eyes.
Which is fine, but again, when the people who are better behaving people than Ishmael was at that moment cry out for help and receiving them.
Yeah.
When do you know when you're going to get help and when you don't? I mean, it's, as a person who sits back and says, why did this evil person get it for asking? this good guy not get it for asking?
One of the famous questions of philosophical life.
No, it's just confusing to a person who's trying to get involved in doing the right thing.
Correct.
Hey, I did everything correctly, and he forsaken me, and he did all the wrong things, and he helped him. How do you know, as a person sitting back, you're going, how do you justify this? How do you explain it? People would just say, well, God, you never know what God's intentions are, and you don't know if you knew what God was thinking. Did God, you're still thinking the way you are, and you have to have some sort of understanding as to what's happening.
Correct.
Because you see injustice. To me, that's injustice.
But remember, for yourself, you yourself have no idea what the choices are.
I don't. But
You have no idea.
I can only make my opinion.
Right. You can. Right. So you can only make your decision based on where you're holding on that day. Meaning, some days you have a choice: exercise, no exercise. And no exercise could mean a variety of things. No exercise could mean, well, getting up in the morning and having a nice routine and taking your wife out to breakfast and coming home and doing some chores. Or no exercise could mean sleeping in, lying around all day like a bum and not doing anything. So you have three choices. Yeah?
There's no exercise and you drop dead of a heart attack.
Okay, so you have three choices, so you don't know what to do. So therefore, you don't know what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu looking at in there. So you're just using your free will for that.
Right, but you're still making decisions, or you're trying to, in your own mind, try to make some sort of sense out of this whole picture.
Yes.
And it's hard. And you can't just say, well, you're not God, and
Right.
I see injustice. Well, God.
Okay, he is going to
plan, and
he is going to speak about it a little bit more. We'll see next time.
It's just God who's evil gets help because he asked for it the last second of his life, or just before it, and then the guy who's asking for the same help, who's been good all along, gets none.
Okay.
Other people will say, you know what, your reward is in heaven, and then he got his reward a lot quicker. I don't know.
Okay, to be continued. Let's see.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So what's it?
Yes, God willing.
You